Okay, so welcome everybody. For those already watching, I'm just going to give it a minute or so. Enjoy the harp music whilst everybody joins us, and then I'll switch to the main screen. I can see Christine and Lynn are with us already, so welcome to you. Okay, so welcome. Namaste, everybody. Namaste on this lovely summer evening here in the UK. Yeah, let's get stuck in. So, for those of you who have been on, were on the last stream, you'll know that by request I did a live reading of what was referred to as a letter from God, a letter from the silence, the infinite silence, which I know from the feedback was particularly powerful for a number of you. So that's great. One of the other suggestions that had come was that because the letter had so much in it in terms of insight and content, is that I would break that down and look at some specific elements of that and see what it's pointing us to in terms of self-realization. So I will do that. But I've also had a question in advance of this stream, which I'd like to address. That's not specifically detailed in the letter, so I'm always happy to take questions anyway. So for continuity purposes, I think the best way to tackle it will actually be to deal with the question that's been posed first, and then look at some specific aspects of the letter and the insights arising from that. So that's like a continuous process. And then after that, we will have the guided infinite silence meditation. So we're aiming for about an hour overall, depending on how things go, how many questions, etc. So yeah, I can see we've got quite a number of people watching that I can see at the moment, so that's good. So let's get stuck in with the question part first, and then I'll come to the letter and take things from there. So this question is actually from Christine, who's also watching, I understand, and it's actually relating to what I refer to. Some of you will have experienced this, maybe some haven't with me. I sometimes refer to it as the open gaze or infinite touch experience. It's when I'm with a group. It could even be done online actually, but sometimes I offer the infinite touch. It's a combination of me sat directly opposite somebody, and I ask them to gaze openly into my eyes, and I'm doing the same with them, and then finish that off with a kind of blessing, which is a touch from my usually my left hand, thumb on the third eye, this area here, and fingers on the top of the head. And Christine's question relates to that, just to explain that process. You know, actually, before I even go into that, just the mere presence of the silence is enough. But this process that I refer to as the open gaze, which I know Lynn has also experienced, and a number of others, is actually very, very powerful. And so Christine's question is this: when you look into the eyes of another, what is it that you see? And can it be described? It seems that you are really looking deeply. When you say, I see you, as you have said to me. So, just exploring that again, just so Christine's saying, when I look into the eyes, what is it that I see? So let's kind of take this step by step, the process, the infinite touch, the open gaze. As I said, merely the presence of the silence in that same shared space is enough, but sometimes the physical contact or the bodily interaction actually helps people make a connection to the essence that they are, and I call that the infinite silence. So when I'm physically inviting people to look into my eyes, and they're looking into mine, and I'm looking into theirs, obviously I can see the physical form. That's natural enough, clearly, but that's not really the space that my focus is on, or where the attention is. From my perspective, as we're doing that, is that I am looking from and as the silence itself, the infinite silence. That's where my attention is rested. In fact, it's always rested there. And so when I'm physically looking at you, my attention is rested in that silent essence, the infinite silence. That's where my focus is, that's where the attention is. And this is a seeing beyond normal physical seeing. And what I'm seeing, in inverted commas, is that same presence, that same essence that's in you. And in fact, from my perspective, and that's a non-individual my, really, there is no separation. There is no separation. Not only that, there is no doubt about that at all. There's just a knowing that not only this form here that you see as Philip, and your form, Christine, who's asked the question, you are also that same infinite silence. And as my attention is rested on that, the knowing, it's almost like I'm looking through your physical form as the silence, not in an intrusive way, but in the recognition of our shared unity as the silence. And if there's anything in the way from your perspective of that, then it's like inviting, or there's the invitation of the silence in a non-personal way for you to recognize that silence that's within you and is you. And this silence is purely non-personal. There's no identification, there's no attachment of anything other than the absoluteness of the silence. And so it's like an invitation, a constant invitation. I'm not looking at the personhood, I'm not looking at the form. It's just the focus is totally and utterly on the silence. And yet at the same time, I can see changes taking place at the physical level. And there's just a knowing as to when to bring that gaze part of the process to a close, and then offer the physical touch to kind of anchor it a little bit further. So really the answer is, it's not a physical seeing, it's a resting of the attention totally in and as the silence, and knowing that not only am I that, but you are that, and indeed everything else is that. And that process of using this through the physical eyes is very, very powerful. You know, there is some truth in the saying that the eyes are the windows to the soul. It's like using the physical form of the eyes to create an energetic connection to that silence. So going on to the part, can it be described? Well, ultimately, the silence itself is beyond words. We might use words like infinite, silence, timeless, eternal, essence, stillness, formless. But all of these are just signposts to it, they're not it. So that is where the attention, and it's simply a knowingness, an awareness of that. That's where the attention is focused. And it's the certainty, if you like that, the knowingness of that creates a very powerful invitation for the person who's not yet perhaps realized that experientially to join in that space, in that unity, in that oneness. So Christine then goes on to say, it seems that you are looking really deeply. Well, I guess the answer to that is as deep as you can get. There is nothing before this. This is the looking from that space. So the part when it is said, it's more accurate to say it that way, I see you. The I here, important to understand, is not a personal I. We think of the word I and we use it in the very personal sense, you know, like I am Philip, you are Christine. The I here, really speaking, is the infinite I. The infinite I. And what is it that's being seen? It is the seeing of itself, or the remembering, or perhaps more accurately still, the realization of itself. Made, and yet it is made manifest in infinite variety. So the I see you is the realization of itself. It's an invitation of that to recognize itself as itself. So I hope that helps answer your question, Christine. For those of you who haven't experienced it, you know, perhaps there'll be an opportunity at some point. I actually had an impulse to do something about that a little while ago, under the name of the open gaze, and watch this space. We'll see if that emerges at some point. So I hope that helps you for now, Christine. If you want to ask anything more about that, then feel free to type a question there and I'll look out for that. I've seen Lewis say hello. Hi, Lewis. So let's move on then. I can't see anything else coming up from Christine, so let's just look at the letter. If you haven't read the letter, I'll read out a section and then I'll offer some further insight to it. So as you will remember, for those who were on last time, the letter starts, Dear friend, it may have been a while in your time since we sat down and had a good heart-to-heart. So we've set aside this special time today for just that. Yes, we agreed to do this millennia ago, even an eternity ago, and now here we are. I meant to say at the beginning, I've broken the letter down into about 14 major sections, so that's the end of the first section, and I just wanted to offer a few insights about that very simple, apparently simple opening. Notice the letter starts, dear friend, not dear subject, dear somebody who's separate from me, but dear friend. In fact, it would be true to say, dear me, but not in the personal sense, in a purely non-personal sense. You know, there's if any of you have ever read the Conversations with God books, there's a book called Friendship with God, and you realise, having read that, then there's another book called Communion with God. Communion meaning common union. And that's what the divine is, the realization is. It's the common union of with the infinite. Yes, you'll still have this form, but there's the knowingness that you are in common union with the absolute. So the friend here is an invitational sense to this friendship with the self that actually eventually becomes a communion. So that in those two opening words, dear friend, there's a profound invitation. Actually, I just seen Christine's response there. I'm glad that worked for you, Christine. So then the letter goes on to say, it may have been a while in your time. Now, in the human sense, we're so used to measuring things in time. You know, this was yesterday, this is here, happening here now, what's happening tomorrow. And in fact, actually, when we're in the mind space, the head space, we're always either looking backwards or projecting forwards and not here now. But the letter goes on to say, yes, we agreed to do this millennia ago, and then clarifies it further and says, even an eternity ago. And what that is essentially saying is actually, really, the infinite expresses itself totally, fully, infinitely, and all of it is here now, and it is eternity itself. And so when, as part of the projection, the creation, shall we say, of the experience of you, as far as the infinite concerned, it was no time and also an eternity ago, in that it is always here now, always in the absolute, the timeless, formless essence. Its agreement with itself is eternal. We can talk more about time perhaps a bit later when I look at other aspects of the letter, but as far as the infinite concerned, all that we call time, all of the infinite expressions of itself are all here now. In the form, we only focus on one very small part. We need time, space, and beingness to create experience, and we measure things in the human sense in time, but the infinite, for it, that which we truly are, it's all here now, and that is the eternity. You are the eternity. It was an agreement with yourself to have this and hear this letter to help you remember who you are. So that is the first part of the 14 parts. I'll see if anything pops up, but I'll just go quickly to the second and third parts. So the next part deals with fear. It's been my observation for a long time now that you've been struggling with this gift called life. For sure, you've had some ups and downs, as you like to put it. Maybe some incredible highs and some very deep lows. But always in the background there's this fear. Fear of life. That's what caused me to write today. You know, in truth, there is nothing to fear. Nothing. For life is eternal, and you are it. It's really that simple, but right now it probably doesn't seem or feel that way to you. So let me expand upon this a bit and see where it takes us. Let me start at the end of that piece, because that kind of gives us some clues, where it's talking about it probably doesn't seem that way. And for most of the population of the planet, that's certainly the case most of the time. And the reason for that is actually really simple. It's all about where our attention is placed. So if you're going back to the open gaze bit that I was talking about in the answer to Christine's question, the attention is solely focused in and as the knowingness of the silence. When the attention is anywhere else other than that, then the experience or the realization is not there. It's an absolute. So the attention must always be rested in the silence, but for most of us, our attention is up here in the headspace, or in the body, or a mixture of both, or out there. And that's why the realization of the self seems so distant. It's completely in a fundamentally ineffective place as far as the realization is concerned. Nothing wrong. We're completely at choice on this. But because the attention is rested in a place apparently separate from, as far as the mind is concerned, the self, then fear is inevitable. Because fear is a function of duality consciousness. And as soon as there's an apparent separation, identification with mind, with form, with the story, and attachment to it, and most importantly, belief in that, then inevitably there's going to be fear. I'm just hoping, by the way, that you're all okay, because I'm getting a message here that the stream health isn't that great. If somebody could let me know, and we'll just check and see. Okay, thanks for that, Lewis. That's helpful. I'll carry on then. So I was talking about, as soon as there's identification, attachment, and belief in something other than the absolute, then fear is inevitable. And the reason for that is because that essentially is the creation of ego. And the one thing that ego fears most is its own demise, the end of ego. And that basically is the source of fear. This one fundamental fear, the demise of ego, the death of ego, the dying before you die, really is at the root of all fear. All fears are based upon this one illusory fear, the separation from the self, the silence. Good, thanks for all this feedback, by the way, guys. This is really helpful. It must just be at my end that doesn't appear to be that great. So this fear of life that's being talked about here is the key illusion. It's the key illusion. And it's based on the false premise of separation that's created by the projection from the silence and then the identification with the projection, by the projection. You think, or we think, that we are the body, the form and its story, and that inevitably creates fear. But when we're open to the possibility that actually we are not the form, that we are the eternal one, that we are the absolute itself, but in a totally non-personal way, then the realization emerges and the fear drops. So the letter is addressing this right at the outset, this fear of life. Actually, who is the one that is fearful? It isn't you. That is ego. Only ego could experience fear. The infinite, the absolute, knows nothing of this. It wouldn't make any sense. It is infinitely powerful. And that's why it says in the letter, there's nothing to fear. You are the infinite one. You are the absolute. You are the silence. So realizing and recognizing the root of all our fears as being the identification with the projection, with the form and the story of the form, ego, in other words. If we can recognize that actually it's all rooted in that one illusion, then we've taken a massive step to the realization of who we are. And it's in the total openness to that coupled with that following of that calling of the heart from within, that brings the realization about. There's nothing to fear. Nothing to fear. Good. A highlight, I've just seen you come on stream there. I think I'm going to leave it to those first three parts of the letter there tonight. We've been going about 30 minutes. Feels like it would be time for the meditation, and I'll look at some more and perhaps any further questions on the next stream. So let's get ourselves comfortable. If anybody has any questions on anything I've shared about that, just let me know. But yeah, otherwise, get yourself nice and comfortable, whether you're going to sit down or lie down. Closing your eyes. Bringing your attention first to your body. just simply noticing your body. And then opening from your heart, bringing your attention to the pure sense, I am the beingness. I also call this spheres of light, being open from your heart to the experience of spheres of light, the pure, universal I am, that is totally non-personal. Resting your attention on this beingness, this aliveness. And as your attention rests on this beingness, this I amness, know that it does so because, as subtle as it may be, it too is seen or witnessed from the deeper essence that is infinite silence. So allow your attention now to rest in and as this infinite silence, everything dissolving into and as this silence. Everything else being let go of now, simply merging, melting into and as this silence. And if anything emerges in terms of sensations, emotions, feelings, just simply watch silently. Just allow them to pass without any judgment. Just everything, all of the attention focused in and as this infinite silence. Everything else can be let go of now. Trusting and knowing you are this silence. Always have been, always will be this. Nothing matters, just this silence. Here you are the silence. Timelessness. Formless. Infinite. Silence. Eternity. Here you are the isness. Simply is you. in silence, you will realize your truth. In truth, you will realize you are silence. Nothing matters. Just this isness. So just continuing to rest in the silence. Just enjoy the harp for a minute or two. Allow yourself to come to, open your eyes when right for you, and we'll just see if there's any questions or anything that anybody wants to share. So I'll come back on the picture in a couple of minutes. So hello there again, everybody. Welcome. I see you. Thank you for that, Lee. That's lovely. That's lovely to hear. Just see if there's anybody else wants to add anything, share anything, or ask anything. So we'll just give that a moment or two. You'll notice on the streaming screen, I think it's top right, there's a little, if you hover your mouse over it, there's a little eye. That gives you a link to, I think it's the Infinite Silence Guided Meditation, half an hour, and another prayer live stream. All bottom right, you should be able to see the logo of the website, which is a representation of the golden egg of creation. And if you hover over that, that allows you to subscribe to the channel if you're not able, or if you're not currently subscribed. So if you happen to be watching this post the stream, you can use those features. So yeah, next week I will, sorry, not next week, the next stream is planned for 2 weeks from today, which is the 24th of August. So look out for that here on the channel, on my website or Facebook. And just looking at Lynn's comment here, thank you very, very much. Valuable combo of the breakdown, the letter from God, and the following meditation. Good. So I'm glad that worked for you, Lynn. So if everybody else is cool with that, I will continue to break down or unpack the letter further. Maybe 2 or 3 of the 14 major parts are referred to each time, and maybe a separate question each time, as well as a meditation. So that should keep us going for a little while. So if everybody's happy with that, that's how we'll continue. I'll just see if there's any more comments. Whilst I'm waiting for that, I'll continue to play the harp again for a few moments. And if anything comes up, I'll respond. If not, I'll bring the stream to a close at some point, but I'll let you know. So enjoy the harp. Okay, thanks for that, Lewis. I think that what's going on there for you is it's that fear I was talking about. A stress in the body is simply just an expression of fear, manifest, made physical. So the key thing for you there, Lewis, is to just allow that sensation of stress in the body to be there, but know that you are not the stress, nor are you the body. And you talk about the awareness of the silence. Just know that not only is the silence present, but actually you are the silence, and you're simply watching this sensation in the body, not identifying with it and not associating with it, is what I call the silent witness. And as you do that, and if you like, relax into that totally, in the knowingness and the trusting that you are the silence, you'll find automatically that stress sensation and the fear that's behind it will drop away more and more, without any effort on your part. It's just an allowing of that. It's effortless grace, I call it. So hopefully that will help you, Louis, for future reference if you're listening to any of the meditations. God bless you too, Christine. So I think, folks, unless there's anything burning, we're probably just about done. So I'll put the harp on again just to close the stream. Thank you all so much for coming, for listening, for taking part, and for sharing. Namaste. Blessings in silence and as silence to you all. This is who you are. Have a good evening and a beautiful weekend. See you in a couple of weeks. Bye now.